All right, everybody. We're going to talk a little bit about songwriting, and this is just my outtake on it, the way I look at it, and the way I have learned through the years. This video is mainly for my little friend Austin Schaefer. So, buddy, if you watch, if you listen, pay close attention and listen up because this is mainly to help you. I'm not nowhere near the best songwriter ever. I never have been or never will claim to be. Sometimes words don't come so easy to me to write a song. But when I do write a song, I take it in the approach of one of three ways. And the three people that I'm going to mention is three of the best musical masterminds and musical geniuses of our time that we will ever know. When I go to write a song, I think either how would Buddy Holly write it, how would John Lennon write it, or how would Kurt Cobain write it. Those are the three people that I want to touch on here. Those are the three people where I have learned how to write songs from and how to arrange, compose, and conduct a song. And also how to put all the elements together to make that song sound good once it's being recorded. Let's start with Buddy Holly. Yeah, back in the 50s, technology was nowhere near what we have today. Recording was nowhere near what we have today. All recording was done on analog tape, reel-to-reel analog tape, as a matter of fact, which, in my opinion, sounds a whole lot better than the digital shit that we have today. But anyways, that's beside the point. When Buddy Holly and the Crickets would go in to record a song, they done a lot of overdubbing. And what overdubbing means is you take your track, your music track and your vocal track, you record it one time, and then you take and put a separate track to it where you're playing back the first track that you just recorded, and you're re-recording the same track over on top of the one you just recorded. They call that overdubbing. It makes a much deeper, brighter, heavier sound. It makes a more clear sound. Back in the day, they called it mono, and that would mean one speaker would go into, like, say, the instruments, and the other speaker you would have the vocals. Well, by doing it overdubbing, a lot of times it would make it almost sound like stereo, which that was a big changeover. It was in around the late 60s. But anyways, we're not going to get onto that right now because that's a whole different rabbit hole. But anyways, Buddy would record, say, like, his vocals and the whole band together, and then they would go back, play the track that they just recorded, and he would do just his vocal and guitar only on top of what they had just previously recorded, and it made a fuller sound. The very first song in rock and roll history that was done that way was Words of Love. If you listen real close, you can hear two guitars and what appears to be Buddy singing through an echo mic, which he did not. It's actually his vocals just doubled over. It's, his same exact vocal being sung repeatedly at the same time, twice over pretty much. Overdubbing is awesome. It's achievable by doing it digital this day and time. It's a little bit harder because you're not working with tape, but it can be done. Let's move on to John Lennon. The way John Lennon and Paul McCartney would write songs together, along with George Harrison, is they would come up with a line or a phrase. Say like, my dog is running down the road. Well, I'm just using that for an example. They would take that line, my dog is running down the road, and if it didn't make sense like what I just said, they would take words and flip words around, or as John would say, keep adding the right word to it till you get the right word. That way it would make your phrase or your sentence complete to where it sounded like it would make sense. That's how the Beatles wrote their songs. And just like Buddy Holly and the Crickets, that's how they done a lot of their overdubbing as well. They learned from Buddy Holly and the Crickets how to overdub their tracks. And whenever they bring in an extra instrument, like, say, for instance, a keyboard or piano or organ, or, for instance, the Day of the Life, a full, complete symphony orchestra, they would record just a regular band playing and singing first, and then they record the orchestra on top of it, and they layer the track together to make the sound. So that's how the Beatles wrote songs. Move on to Kurt Cobain. We're talking, late 80s, early 90s. Grunge movement, grunge era, coming out of Seattle. Kurt was heavily influenced by Buddy Holly and the Beatles. He was extremely, majorly influenced by John Lennon. And the way he would approach songwriting is he would take phrases, just like John would, and he'd keep flipping and switching words around to where it sounded like, to him, what could possibly be a Beatles song. The song that he wrote about a girl, if you really listen to that track and the way the instrumentation is recorded, the way the song is arranged and conducted and composed, it almost does sound like a Beatles tune if you really think about it. That's how Kurt Cobain approached songwriting. Now, of course, I cannot tell you what words to write down on paper. I cannot tell you what word to put in this sentence or what few words to put in this paragraph or whatever as you're writing your own songs. That's up to y'all. I cannot teach you how to write songs. But I'm hoping with what I'm telling you does help. That's how I approach songwriting. I think in my mind, how would Buddy Holly, John Lennon, or Kurt Cobain go about doing it? How would they phrase this word, or how would they phrase this verse? That's how I think. And more importantly, the most important thing I've learned about songwriting, the biggest thing, less is more. You could have one phrase, my dog was running down the road. That makes sense, and that tells us a bit of a story in itself. Hey, this kid's dog is running down the road. You don't have to go, my dog is running down the road. He's coming up to a corner. If he doesn't watch out and turn, he's going to run sideways, maybe fall and hurt himself, whatever. See, that's too much. You don't have to put all that in there. My dog is running down the road. Lets the listener take their mind and do what they will with it. It's like, it gives the listener a chance to wonder, well, what's the dog going to do as he's running down the road? Less is more. So that's my outtake on songwriting. And that's how I approach songs whenever I'm writing my own stuff. Like I said, I'm not nowhere near the best songwriter. I don't write songs every day because sometimes songs don't come to me that easy. Yeah, I do have a couple songs that I've been approached by independent indie labels wanting to buy my songs for like $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, but me give all exclusive copyrights, ownership, my name, all of it to them, meaning my name would not be on it in any way whatsoever. And I told them to politely go fuck themselves because I'm not a sellout. So take that and do what you will with it. Hope y'all learned something. Study Buddy Holly. Study John Lennon. Study Kurt Cobain. Especially how they wrote and recorded their songs. There's a wealth and a ton of knowledge on Google, on YouTube, in books, you name it. Study those three guys. You will definitely learn something. But for now, peace and love.